For 40 minutes, nothing came through. No voice from Houston, no telemetry, no commands. Just 4 astronauts sealed inside a spacecraft passing behind the far side of the moon, completely cut off from Earth. We've stared at the moon for as long as we've had eyes to look up. A dead world, a gray companion, fully mapped, fully understood. Artemis 2 proved that was never true. The moon has 2 faces, and they barely belong to the same world. The side facing Earth is covered in vast, dark plains called Maria, ancient lava floods that filled enormous impact basins billions of years ago. That's the face we've stared at for centuries. Smooth, familiar, almost gentle. The far side has almost none of that. Instead, crater after crater after crater, stacked on top of each other, as if the surface had been hammered for 4 billion years and never allowed to heal. Even the crust is different, thicker on the far side, and nobody fully agrees on why. One leading idea is that Earth itself is partly responsible. For billions of years, our planet's heat and gravity may have shaped how the near side cooled and evolved differently from the side that never faces us. Another idea points to an ancient, long-vanished companion moon that could have slammed into the far side and thickened it permanently. Neither explanation is settled. Both mean the 2 faces of the moon may have been diverging since almost the beginning. One clue sits near the lunar South Pole, the South Pole Aitken Basin, one of the largest impact structures in the entire solar system. 2,500 kilometers wide, over 10 kilometers deep, and underneath it, gravity readings show something that shouldn't be there. A massive, dense anomaly buried far below the crater floor. The leading explanation, part of the metallic core of whatever hit the moon billions of years ago, is still down there, lodged inside it, like a fragment of a bullet that was never removed. For 4 astronauts flying past it, this wasn't a satellite image anymore. It was terrain, seen directly through a window, and human eyes notice things instruments flatten out. The crew reported subtle shifts in color and brightness across the surface. Fresh craters looked shockingly bright against ancient weathered ground. And along the terminator, the moving line between lunar day and night, low sunlight turned crater rims into blades of light with black voids underneath. Less a dead sphere, more a record of violence, written in stone. Then, mid-flight, the sun disappeared. From inside Orion, the eclipse lasted far longer than anything you'd see from Earth. The sun's corona formed a bright ring around the moon's edge, while mountains and ridges cut into the light like black teeth. For a few minutes, the moon wasn't a gray rock lit by sunlight anymore. It was a wall between 4 humans and their star. And in that darkness, the crew reported brief flashes on the surface, likely small meteoroids, striking a world with no atmosphere to slow them down or burn them up. Some of the moon's strangest secrets aren't even visible in daylight. On the near side, bright swirling patterns called lunar swirls cut across the ground without forming craters or ridges. No obvious cause at all. Some line up almost exactly with patches of magnetized rock in the crust. That's strange because the moon has no global magnetic field today. It lost that billions of years ago. So what's left are ghosts of a shield that no longer exists, and scientists still argue about whether those ghosts are protecting the surface from solar wind or doing something else entirely. Deeper under the far side, there's another anomaly, a warm patch, likely sitting on top of a buried block of granite. Granite is everywhere on Earth. On the moon, it's almost unheard of, because it usually forms through repeated melting and a long, complicated geological history, which means the moon's interior may have had a far messier past than the simple dead rock story we told for 50 years. One with repeated melting, mixing, and resolidifying, the same kind of process that built entire mountain ranges here on Earth. And that raises an uncomfortable question. What else is still buried down there? Possibly lava tubes, ancient volcanic tunnels left behind when molten rock drained out and the roof stayed standing. Some could be wide enough to fit entire buildings inside, potentially sheltering future astronauts from radiation, micrometeorites, and the extreme swings between lunar day and night. Nobody knows their real size, how stable they are, or what's inside them. For now, they're sealed chambers under a world we've barely scratched. Radiation is the part of this story that doesn't make for dramatic footage, but it might matter more than any crater. The moon has no thick atmosphere and no strong magnetic field, so its surface sits exposed to solar particles and galactic cosmic rays. For robots, that's a data point. For astronauts, it's the single biggest obstacle to living beyond Earth for any real length of time. During Artemis 2, the crew spent days outside Earth's protective magnetic bubble. Orion's shielding helped, but high-energy particles can still punch through metal and tissue alike, potentially damaging DNA in ways that unfold over years, not hours. That's exactly why biology was part of the experiment, not just engineering. Researchers are studying how human cells respond to that environment using organ-on-a-chip devices, small, lab-grown tissue samples designed to reveal what deep space conditions do to the human body before we send anyone somewhere we can't quickly bring them home from. A 10-day loop around the moon is nothing compared to what a Mars mission will demand. No 10 days, but years, with no atmosphere and no magnetic field standing between the crew and the raw radiation of deep space. Getting back to the moon was one thing. Living beyond Earth's protection for months or years is a completely different problem. And that's the real test Artemis 2 was built to run. There's one more reason the far side matters, and it has nothing to do with craters or buried metal. Silence. The moon itself blocks the constant electromagnetic noise Earth produces. A radio telescope built on the far side could listen at frequencies that are almost impossible to study from anywhere near our own planet. A clear window into parts of the universe we've never heard properly. Robotic missions have already landed there, mapped the basin, even brought samples home. But Artemis 2 added something a robot can't replicate: human judgment, human reaction, a person noticing something strange and asking why. For decades, our picture of the moon came from a handful of landing sites, almost all on the near side. That's a little like visiting one desert and deciding you understand an entire planet. The far side tells a different story: a thicker crust, a buried mass the size of a small country, ancient scars, magnetic ghosts, heat where there shouldn't be any, and tunnels we haven't dared look inside yet. Every answer just opens another question, and that might be the actual discovery here. The moon was never a dead object hanging quietly in our sky. It's a real place, with two faces that barely agree with each other, a violent history, and problems that will shape whatever comes next for us out there. For over 50 years, nobody had gone back. Now we have, and the closer we look, the less familiar it gets. Maybe that's what exploration actually is. Not arriving somewhere we already understand, but finding out that the place we thought we knew was never fully known at all.